This is Digital Textbooks by Samuel Duke and Christina De Leon. So the pre-creation of ebooks or digital textbooks traced back to the 1930s when an American writer, Bob Brown, had an idea for what he called readies. And he felt to keep up with the reading, he needed a machine. And readers could adjust the font and size to avoid paper cuts. However, it was not created. So it basically was just this big boxy machine that you would insert a book, and it kind of held the pages, but it used a magnifying glass and you could just adjust that so you would be able to read. But due to the size and everything, it was not made. The first prototype was made by a Spanish teacher named Angela Ruiz Robles. And she was a Spanish teacher who just genuinely loved her students and wanted to make it better for them, make it easier for students. So she came up with a prototype, and she used spools and compressed air. But because they considered it automated and not electronic, it wasn't produced either. But in her picture there to the right, you can see that was her prototype of her ebook. In 1971, the first ebook was created by Michael Hart. He was a student from Illinois University, and he created the first ebook with a computer in a lab. It looked more like a pamphlet, but it launched the first publication in electronic form. And in 1993, ebooks began to sell online. And in 1999, a publishing company, Simon & Schuster, created iBooks and made books in e-format and print. Some of the things with ebooks in education, it's a growing topic. So while they have been around, there are several challenges that can arise. So making them as like something to help students, but not replace actual books, but pretty much doing what works for students. They cost as well. They can be costly. They can, they can be great. But it just depends on the students and the schools and the families if that's something they can do, and the different type of device usage. And then factoring in the cultural change as well and keeping students engaged and challenged, and not just putting another electronic device in front of them to just look at it. We have to keep them engaged with the ebooks. Some benefits of the digital books is they are simple to back up and purchasing. You can purchase them online in stores like Walmart, Best Buy. They do have the ability to adjust fonts, and you can use them on multiple devices. So if you're using them in class to do reading, you can have them on your phones if you're on the go, Kindles, tablets, and you can edit them, highlight your readings, save your pages. It can reduce the cost in books, especially if there are fees associated with regular books. And they reduce the weight in backpacks. So you just have a tablet or your phone and you can go without having to carry around a bag with books.
So ebooks can also be a huge resource beyond the regular classroom. So they're not just this more convenient item for students to use in reading, but they can also be a way for students to access a much larger library than what they would otherwise have access to in especially in a smaller public school. Some schools don't have large libraries with really large selections of books, so having ebooks and having some form of platform that gives students access to many, many ebooks gives them just a plethora of knowledge that they have access to for any research projects they might have or essays they might have. So they aren't confined to what they write about or learn about to just what their school has to offer. And it can also be a great way to get students engaged and interested in reading recreationally with large libraries of fiction literature for students to dive into.
Some of the benefits as well between traditional books and ebooks. So traditional books, they do have the tactile and sensory experience. They help retain memory. They're more comfortable for the eyes because you don't have the light and stuff from the tablets or your Kindles or your phones. They do inspire creativity and they help build connections. And ebooks, you have the portability, so you can take them on the go. They're easily accessible. You can customize them. They're eco-friendly and they have a unique experience with augmented reality. And they also have the built-in read aloud feature. So whether you have students that maybe struggle with reading, they can listen to it. Or if you're just more of a person who wants to hear a story rather than stare at a screen, those are some nice features.
So there are concerns amongst some educators when it comes to ebooks. In a study that was done surveying a very large number of teachers, it was found that 43% of these teachers strongly believed that digital technologies were creating an easily distracted generation. And a vast majority of teachers believed that this generation of students were less literate than previous generations. And so it's definitely, there are two sides to this where many teachers do want to use technology and use the great resources and tools that technology has brought about in order to engage with students and broaden their horizons, while other teachers are very worried about the many distractions that technologies can bring into the classroom, especially with cell phones becoming very common among students. So it's definitely a really big topic of debate amongst educators. So ebooks, are they a great resource? Are they this growing distraction? The International Reading Association standards for reading professionals in 2010 called for teachers to integrate traditional print, digital, and online resources into literacy instruction. And that really just shows that there is this good compromise and that there are great benefits to both, from your classic print books to ebooks and the great plethora of accessibility that they bring to the classroom. And using both is going to benefit students. And so if we focus on the negatives of both of these, will just rob students of the many great opportunities that ebooks and traditional books can bring to the classroom. So that is our presentation on ebooks.